Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. My name is Craig Rainey. They call me the Renaissance Man. Welcome to my podcast. Let's see if we get started. I want to tell you how appreciative I am of the feedback I've been getting and a lot of replies and likes and that kind of thing. I got this podcast started more to give insight. I've got a blog site too, but there's not a. I get a lot of readership, but I felt like I was missing a large number of you, and I thought that this is a way for me to connect in some way, and I really appreciate the fact that y'all are embracing it, and I'm very pleased at the popularity and how many people are actually listening to what I have to say, and I'm hoping that it's entertaining, and I'm hoping that in some way you're getting not pleasure out of it, also maybe a little bit of information, maybe some insight on the different industries I've been involved in that maybe you didn't know. By the way, one of the comments I had is, how do we get a hold of you? How do we, comment directly to you? How do we, communicate with you, just in case we have a question, whatever. And I do apologize. I wanted to let you know my website is craigrainey.com, CRAIGRAINEY.com. My email is craig@craigrainey.com. Very difficult stuff. But you can also get hold of me on Facebook, Twitter. I'm really not on many more. I've got an Instagram site, got some others, but those are the two main ones. Friend me on Facebook, and I'll try to keep you up to speed on what's going on. But also, we can get to know each other personally, and I'm all for that. I think that the more friends one has, the more valuable one is as a human being, and I very much appreciate the fact that you'd be interested enough to do that. So, anyway, moving on. What I wanted to talk about today is inspired by, actually it was a joke. For Christmas, my wife gave me what I call a bathroom book, and this one is entitled Man Up, 367 Classic Skills for the Modern Guy by Paul O'Donnell. And it's funny because two things reach out and grab me about the cover of this book. One is it's for the modern guy. Well, I'm not a guy. I'm a man. And now I will refer to myself as a guy, but this is a printed word. It should say 367 Classic Skills for the Modern Man. In just a second, I'll cover that. But, I'm looking here, a couple of things it talks about is how to throw a punch, how to quit your job. But it says how to hold a baby. I didn't realize that was a manly skill. I mean, sure, I've done it. I've got a son and did that. How to make the first move, how to run a marathon, how to keep a poker face, and how to cook the perfect steak, how to get a tattoo, and how to buy a used car. All very important skills for the manly man. For those of you who know much about me, you know that I'm really a fan of Renaissance festivals. I didn't start off that way. In the 80s, I had a friend of mine that he and his wife would go religiously to TRF, Texas Renaissance Festival, the one that's over near Houston. There's another one now. It's newer. It's been around for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, maybe 7. I don't remember when it started, but anyway, that's Sherwood Forest Fair, and it's over near Page. I don't know. It's about an hour outside of Austin on Highway 290, like you're heading east. Anyway, the reason I mentioned that is in the 80s when this friend of mine invited me, I go, and I'm not going to do that. Then, it's a bunch of weirdos going out there and dressing up and talking like they're from medieval and going, I'm not going to do that. So it's funny because I guess it was 2000. In fact, I know it was 2008 was the first year that I went. I went to TRF, and I showed up there because I was dating a girl that she says, "Hey, I got a friend that's going. We should go." And I went, "I'm going to go, but under protest." So I went there and we camped, and so I walked in. And I'm going to say this: by the end of that day, she and I had purchased $1,000 worth of garb. It's not costume, by the way. If you go, it's garb, and I just fell in love with it. These are great people. This is so much fun, and if you haven't done it, you should do it. And I would tell you this: you should camp. If you don't camp when you go to these Renaissance festivals, you're missing 80% of what going to a Ren Fair is actually about, and you should definitely do it. Now, Scarborough Fair up near Dallas, they don't camp, and that's a big reason I don't go. Uh, we refer to those who don't camp and just come in for the day as tourists, but oh yeah, believe me, I completely nerded out on this thing. I belong to a clan, and I dress up. I've got you wouldn't believe the garb I have, and of course, we camp and everything else, but I describe it to some people as, when they say, well, what is it about Ren Fair? Well, it's essentially for me, I'm camping out with extended family, and we barbecue and drink beer together, and we throw on strange outfits and go in and drink beer inside together. It's a lot of fun. It really is. And I would also encourage if anybody that if they wanted to go to Burning Man. I've been 3 times, and I always say, oh, it's on my bucket list. Well, you should go. It's an experience, and it's not as depraved as everybody says. I've explained it this way: what you find at Burning Man, you could find in any major city in the United States. If you look for it, you're going to find it. Things are a little more open, but they call it an experiment in society, an experiment in a community. And the reason for it is there is no money except for buying ice and water, that kind of thing. But it's all gifting, not even barter. It's just gifting, but sometimes it's barter. But anyway, it's interesting. But that's not the reason I mentioned that. The reason I mentioned Renaissance Festival is I was talking about this Man Up book. When I when I went, I'd done as I mentioned in a previous episode. In the film business, I always play either the heavy or a cop. So as a result, I've kind of earned the reputation of being a man's man. He's a tough guy. He's done this. He's done that. And I cowboyed professionally on a ranch. I've ridden some rough stock. I've done a little of that. I was in the military. I was in a field artillery unit, and I went through basic training and all that kind of stuff. I went through a couple of NCO academies in schools. So I mean, okay, Army cowboy, he plays bad guys. So I kind of developed that reputation. So I had a friend of mine who I befriended when I was there, and he said, well, I'd like to be as manly as you are. I said, well, it's going to be tough to do because I'm the mayor of full-grown effing Manville, and blah blah blah. Well, anyway, that stuck. Pretty soon, all over the place, I used to hear it even from some of the women that went to fair. They go, "Hey, Mayor, what's going on? Welcome to full-grown effing Manville, dude." And so anyway, it was humorous, and but because of that, every now and then I'll get a little shot at me, like my wife giving me this book, Man Up, And although I remember there have been a couple times when I might not have done something that I should have done or whatever it may be. She'll say, well, you need to man up and get this thing done. And I know what she means by that, and I will not make any joke about that because in our household, we have blue jobs and we have pink jobs. And those blue jobs are expected to be done. And as I mentioned before, my wife she is successful. She is upwardly mobile. She is well educated, and she comes from culture and class. It's more than what you could say for me. But the thing is, she embraces the independence and the emancipation, the ideology of successful independent woman. As I said before, she was doing just fine when she met me. She did not need me to help her in life. She's got this thing covered. But the other thing is, she embraces some of the traditional values. I open doors for her when we enter or leave a building. I open the car door or my truck door when she's getting in. When we order, she orders first. I defer to her to certain things that that should be, but I'm just saying that we have blue jobs and we have pink jobs, and that that expectation is something I am proud and pleased to provide and to manage those areas of responsibility. But I think the the role of a man, it hasn't changed, but I think it's been misinterpreted to a certain extent. The reason I object to the word well, modern guy, when I go to restaurants now, and I know you've all seen it, anytime I go to a restaurant and a waiter or waitress will come over, they go, "Hey, so how are you guys doing? Have you guys decided on what you want? Have you guys done this or that?" And it's just, okay, long hair, boobs. That's a woman. That is not a guy. And I think that, yes, I know it's shorthand, and I know those of you in the service industry, and I'm one of you. It's a whole lot easier to say, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" But it's also very trite, and I think it's a unnecessary shortcut. And I think the English language has is being watered down and diluted to where there's not a whole lot of ceremony or art to it. And back when I went to school, one of the classes I took in English was called language arts. It was just an English class. And, you know, some of the words that we use now, and I'm going to complain just a little bit, like the flurry of likes that I hear whenever I am around young people and a lot of older people too is like, I'm like. And, I get it. It's a marker. It's shorthand. It is unobtrusive. I was like racing this and that. And another one is literally look it up. I had somebody that said, that product literally flew off the shelves. It was so popular. And so in my mind, I'm seeing stuff growing wings and, flying away. And had somebody said, "Oh, man, you should have seen. I was literally scared to death." And it's like, well, it's better than that figurative fright that we can all get. You don't want that. But literally is not an exclamatory word. Literally has to do with if I'm saying that I am literally in deep crap, it means that it's smelly and I'm up to my neck in it and I need a shower. So, literally and figurative, that's one of the things. And then finally, amazing. She is amazing. Well, amazing is not a verb. It's an adjective. You can have an amazing, I'm sorry, it's an adverb. You can have an amazing mathematical skill, an amazing eye for color, an amazing this, amazing that. But anyway, uh, I belabored that enough. Let's get back to this guy thing. Uh, Guy is shortcut for courtesy. And I would much rather if somebody came to my table and said, "Well, how are you doing? How are the two of you doing?" "Ma'am, sir, welcome to our restaurant. How are you?" I realize it takes more work, and when you're doing this for a living, you have to do it a lot. But I'm a good tipper, and yeah, I'm kind of set in my ways, and as I get older, it gets worse. But it just bugs me. So anyway, the guy thing is, I think, is emblematic of where our society is going. I'm going to tell you a quick story about this. When my son was in his early 20s, and he's not much beyond that, this was probably 2008, 2009, something like that. And might have been later. But anyway, uh, he and his roommate at that time, and we went out. We went to this place in San Antonio, and we went there to have a couple drinks, and they served food and everything else. But this place was packed, and apparently it's kind of a happy hour after work, hang out, this kind of thing. And the the vast majority of the patrons in there were mid 20s, early 30s, this kind of thing. And anyway, so my brother and his roommate and I, we walked up to the bar because we just walked into the place and we ordered drinks. And I looked over and there was this table, and I guess there were six stunningly beautiful women sitting there, and they're mid 20s, somewhere in that neighborhood is what I would guess. And I saw them checking out my son and his roommate. Well, I mean, I'm a man of the '80s, and I was like, hey, I see definite interest here. Anyway, so I, got my drink and I, nudged my son. And I said, "Hey, see this table over here with these pretty girls?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Man, they're really